Do you know why people get uncomfortable when you fart around them? The reason people get uncomfortable when you fart around them and they can overhear it, or you're using the restroom and there's not a fan going and they can kind of hear what you're up to. The reason people have trepidation about bowel movements in public restrooms surrounded by other people. Why is this the case? Why are we comfortable with someone doing the vampire cough besides germ concern? Why are we uncomfortable around loud sneezes, even if there's handkerchief involved? Why do these disturb us? Why does it feel uncouth? Why do some people even have a shy bladder that they can't use the restroom when other people are around? I will tell you why. It is because those base biological functions, those animalistic impulses, urges, and experiences, they come across like threats. They're perceived as threats. In society, we interact with one another as thinking beings with some semblance of free will and personal agency. We want to perceive one another as minds first, bodies second, as thinking organisms, as having the ability to reason. I think, therefore I am. I fart, therefore I am not human. Now, that sounds really strange. You remember that campaign for the poopery product called Good Girls Don't Poop? Hilarious. There's something there where being known and perceived by others around you as having the body of an animal, yet the brain of a human, higher consciousness with a lower state experience, is a threat because it breaks the ruse of a higher being I'm interacting with. When we are around others who break that with a loud passing of gas, or perhaps a guttural utterance while relieving oneself, that reminds us that we have the bodies of animals and the urges and the instincts and the needs and necessities of animals. And we are subconsciously reminded of that time and place when we lived in the wild, when humans were undomesticated, when 50% of people died from homicide, where between 50 and 75% of our young died before their 5th birthday, when more than half of birthing mothers died during or after childbirth, usually because of malnutrition, when if you did not kill, you did not eat, when an unusually hot summer or atypically cold winter meant that everyone you loved died, when it was man versus wild, humanity versus nature, when we were predators towards one another, driven by our urges and instincts, when it was typical to get your first girlfriend through the war bride strategy of pillage and rape. When you fart in front of someone and they hear it, whether or not you act embarrassed or ashamed of it, and that's why there is embarrassment and shame in a normal person, that's why. Our society, our manners are all designed to focus on our thinking aspects so that we can think of ourselves and treat one another as higher beings and hide the fact that we have bodies. This is why we wear clothes, by the way, is to project that higher state of being and higher state of consciousness rather than falling into the level of an animal. Animals don't wear clothes unless you're like Winnie the Pooh or something like that. Now, understanding persuasion, and this is a meta conversation today, understanding persuasion allows you to know that not just the human body is an animal, but so is the brain. So is the brain. We are inherently tribal. Truth is tribal. You might know the One Sentence Persuasion Course by Blair. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up and read it to you because I think it's so important here. If you haven't heard it, some of you already looked it up before I can even pull it up. Warren, here it is, One Sentence Persuasion. I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. If it's going to come up. It is. This is going to explain a lot. People will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies. Again, the Blair Warren One Sentence Persuasion Course is: people will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies. Do that, and you help someone forget that they're an animal being driven like one, and they become convinced. This is the difference, by the way, between manipulation and persuasion. Manipulation is what activates someone's animalian instincts. Fear, fight, flight, freeze, and they become an animal, and they lose access to rational thought, reason, and whatnot. Persuasion is still accessing someone through their subconscious mind, their tribalism, their biases, their invisible preferences, but making them believe that they were a rational human the entire time. In sales, we talk about the buyer buying on emotion, but justifying logically. That's persuasion. It's engaging in it via emotion and justifying it logically. That man versus wild tribal situation perfectly applies here. People will do anything for those who, meaning they will follow you. You will become their alpha, their leader, the top dog, the chieftain of the tribe, the patriarch. That's who you become to someone when you persuade them. Encourage their dreams. That's what a leader does. We're going to make it. Imagine how wonderful the harvest is going to be. We will find you a bride. We will pick up on the tracks of the mammoth. We will make it through the desert to the oasis. Encourage their dreams. It's survival. Dreams equal survival in the future, and therefore hope in the present. When you're trying to persuade a human, you're trying to persuade a 70,000-year-old animal. It is what it is. Yes, there's reason and rationality, etc., etc. But those are mostly ruses and facades. And the facade falls when you fart. Justify their failures. Yes. To fail in a 50 to 150 person tribal context is to risk everyone you love dying in the most graphic way possible. So if you can make someone feel better about failing, saying it's not your fault, then they don't have to feel like they're going to get scapegoated. They don't have to feel like it's going to be a mutiny. They don't have to feel like they're going to be outcast from the tribe and die within a week from exposure. Or be set out to sea or drowned in a bog, 3000 BC. True story. That's why you justify failures. You persuade someone. You make them feel safe with you, that you're not going to outcast them because they've failed. Again, this is why you feel weird when you fart. Allay their fears. Yes. The boundary between man and wild is the gate, the wall, the hedge, the fires, the light, the darkness. What's out there? If you make someone feel safe, they can fall asleep. They can get the rest they need. They and their wife and their child. Vulnerable population. And their parents, their aging parents, who are somehow still alive through all this. If you can tell them what the threats are and how you've already mitigated them, you win. Confirm their suspicions. I knew it. I knew it. This demonstrates the ability to predict, which is a uniquely human experience. Knowing what's going to happen, saying it's going to happen, and it does happen, meaning someone is suspicious of something possibly happening or being a way, and then you reveal that it is that way. They trust themselves, but they also trust you more because you've shown them they can trust themselves. And they like you, and they trust you for that. You are their authority. And then help them throw rocks at their enemies. Tribalism. Someone who understands tribalism, tribalistic persuasion, tribal persuasion, is Donald Trump. Everything he does is throwing rocks at the enemies of the people. The enemies of the people are illegal aliens who skip the line and they embarrass all immigrants and put them to shame who follow the process legally. It's the drug addicts who become abusers of other drug users. This is why he recommends capital punishment for drug dealers who are killing hundreds of people, the vulnerable. This is why he's tough on trade negotiations, because the American worker is being taken advantage of. He's throwing rocks at the enemies of people who are unemployed in America's industrial base and haven't been able to get anything better than a part-time job at Walmart since then. That's who supports him. He throws rocks at the news, who regularly lies without shame, the enemy of the people. The press, who deceives, who misinforms, disinforms, and malinforms. The result being Americans don't know about life-saving treatment that does in fact work. For example, during certain periods of our recent memory in the last decade, and lie about him. People will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies. People will do anything for you. Just next time, be quiet when you fart.